Okay, hello, Deborah, Dr. Deborah Kesten here, and we're going to talk about health and nutrition. And I would love to know about your approach to health and nutrition. And thank you very much for being here. And I would like to just start off with a question that you say you're a holistic nutrition researcher. What does that exactly mean? Well, how would you define that?
Well, when most of us think about nutrition, we think of what I call eating by number, counting calories and carbs and figuring fat grams. I went on what I call a nutrition journey around the world to research what and how we ate for thousands of years before nutritional science, as we know it today, evolved. Because nutritional science is only about 100 years old. Before that, humankind turned to world religions for guidelines about what to eat. They turned to what I call cultural traditions, such as yogic nutrition. Ana yoga is about 5,000 years old. And we also turn to Eastern healing systems that include nutrition, such as India's Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, and also Tibetan medicine for guidelines about what and how to eat. And I researched all this ancient food wisdom. And my husband and co-author of Whole Person Integrative Eating, behavioral scientist Larry Sherwitz, we said, how are we going to talk about this? This is enormous. And we distilled all this ancient food wisdom into 7 perennial principles that have been guidelines for what and how to eat for thousands of years before all this eating by number, which, may I say, has taught us to have disordered eating, has taught us a way of eating that contributes to overeating and weight gain. So whole person integrative eating means it's a holistic whole person approach, because our research with more than 5,200 people shows that what and how you eat optimally is based on what I call the 4 facets of food, meaning food has a profound influence not only on our physical health, which most of us are familiar with, but it has a huge influence on our emotions and emotional well-being, our food, and on what I call spiritual nutrition, meaning eating with mindfulness, gratitude, authentic gratitude from the heart, not from the head, and also with loving regard for food are the 3 spiritual nutrition ingredients, and also social nutrition, eating with others in a pleasant atmosphere instead of today's new normal of eating alone while you're working at your computer, walking down the street. So whole person integrative eating is a holistic approach and program, evidence-based, scientifically sound, not a magic diet I'm making up, based on what and how we ate for thousands of years, which tells us food nourished us physically, but also emotionally, spiritually, and socially.
That is wonderful. I have a lot of questions just based on what you're saying, but I think it's really important that we forget the personal relationship we have with food. I mean, many see food as just survival, but it's also pleasure. I mean, as somebody who loves food and as a foodie, I just like enjoy it. And you mentioned it absolutely. I mean, Brian Wensink wrote the book Mindless Eating, and I think that is something that it's just kind of like we're ingrained in us in a way now, where we don't want to waste time, so we eat fast. We have junk food, fast food, microwave food, and we kind of consume it without paying attention to it. And that is part of the problem of gaining weight, because we're not even aware how many calories we're taking in as we are doing it, watching TV or being on the computer. And food is also a celebration. We use food for celebration, for getting together, Thanksgiving or weddings and so on. And I think these are aspects of food that we tend to ignore or disregard or disrespect when it comes to what is traditionally called as dieting, and which I am strongly against because of various reasons. And does that reflect your point of view as well, like kind of a personal and cultural relationship that we have with food, and we are often disregarding or ignoring or not deepening enough in our daily life? Would
A
you agree
good
with
question. Yes, a very good question. Ultimately, what happened is this. Spirituality and Health magazine invited me to do an article on whole person integrative eating. I used to call it the enlightened diet. This is to give everybody context. This is nutritional anthropology. This is looking at what and how we ate for thousands of years and how we eat now. It's nutritional anthropology, not a magic diet I'm making up.
And so it's evolutionary psychology that you're also looking at, which I'm a huge fan of. I went to see Helen Fisher and just love her insights into also gender differences based on our past. And I think today a lot of people are just ignoring the past and it's like, let's move on, let's erase everything. And I think this is who we are. I mean, it's the collective past that we have, and Jung would say, I mean, this is how we've been like shaped in our mind, in our thinking, in our behaviors, and in many cases we're not aware of that. It's unconscious, and just to say that does not exist or we're gonna go a completely different route, to me does not make sense, and it's actually unhealthy in many ways. Instead of
You're
really like
bringing up the
embracing it.
essence. Yes, you're bringing up the essence of whole person integrative eating, and what I mean by that is this. I wrote an article for Spirituality and Health magazine on, I'll call it WPIE, integrative eating. And we asked people to take a quiz, a 76-item quiz before they learned whole person integrative eating. We put this up online and it turned into a 6-week, 18-lesson online e-course. So people filled out the What's Your Overeating Style self-assessment quiz. They did the 6-week intervention, the WPIE course, and then they took the quiz afterward. And what we discovered is this. Again, more than 5,200 people participated in this. From this, behavioral scientist Larry Sherwood separated out one of the 76 questions. And that question that he separated out was, I overeat. And he linked it with all the other questions. And what we found were two things. One, we identified 7 overeating styles, new normal overeating styles. In the world of science, they're all statistically significant, not just cute words we made up. And the more people shifted from the new normal overeating styles that we identified in the quiz to whole person integrative eating ingredients, the ancient food wisdom way of eating, the less they overate and the more weight they lost as a natural side effect, not as a rigid, regimented, prescribed way of eating.
Exactly. I mean, I see like dieting often is as a form of punishment too. You're punishing yourself, your body, your soul. And your first book was called Feeding the Body, Nourishing the Soul. And I love the connection between the two. It is a spiritual, mindful practice. It is something that nourishes us, both like our body as well as our mind and soul. And so one of the things that I would like to ask you is about intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts about that? And I'll let you know my thoughts in a moment. But how do you feel about that?
I can answer that, and I will, but I want you to give me your words. Intermittent fasting, because this is what I always ask people when I'm coaching them. So I'm not going to just give you a quick answer, but I will. When you say, what do I think of intermittent fasting? Give me your perspective. For what? About what?
Yeah. So I was trying to lose weight. So I was obese, and I had various health problems. It's gotten much better now, from hypertension to diabetes type 2 and so on. And so I wanted to lose weight. And there was this desire. I said, yes, I would like to lose some weight. And I went to diabetes class. And basically they told me you have to have 5 meals a day. You have to make sure your sugar is fine. You can't skip anything. You can't skip your breakfast. It's really important. So I was following that. And then I saw a video by Mark Mattson who talked about intermittent fasting. And it sounded so simple, and it's not a diet. It's like a lifestyle, like you would probably call a lifestyle too, is you are just restricting the amount of food you eat, the time period. So what I would do, I started off skipping breakfast, which is supposedly the most important meal of the day. But and Mark Mattson talks about how this is basically advertisement done by the cereal companies. But again, that's a different thing. And so when I realized that, it was a bit difficult at first to adjust because I couldn't eat a window without eating. Like I thought I wouldn't be able to survive. And that was actually my anxiety. My stress would increase, and I would use food to overeat and to calm that anxious feeling. And I was worried that, okay, my blood sugar, it will go up, go down. I don't know what's going to happen. But I followed him because he actually did research on diabetes type 2 as well. And so it was difficult for about probably the first week of adjusting to not eating over a period of 14, 15 hours. But it felt not only very good, but I realized I didn't need the food that I thought I needed. And I wasn't hungry. And it's more like a natural rhythm of finding, okay, I want to eat now because I'm hungry, not because I'm supposed to have breakfast at this specific time. So I thought with me that sense of control I said to myself, I can do this. I can lose weight, and I can control my eating habits and manage them and kind of change certain things. And it's worked wonders. I've lost 50 pounds ever since I started that. It's not only intermittent fasting, it's also going through psychological help and support through a lot of reading. I've been reading a lot, and also introspection. But for me, that period of not eating, giving your body time to heal itself, to regenerate and so on, I thought was very helpful in helping me not only lose weight, but also gain control in many aspects of my life.
I think intermittent fasting does indeed help many people lose weight, and it's often connected with weight loss. Yes, it's not just this thing to do. And I'm glad it's been effective for you. Here's my larger answer for you. Again, I'm talking about a way of eating, scientifically sound way of eating that nourishes all of us, all of you, each time you eat. And the reason I'm bringing that up is this: I will specifically address diabetes. While our research, Larry's and mine research, showed that replacing all these 7 overeating styles with a way of eating that nourishes all of you each time you eat leads to less overeating, and weight loss is a natural side effect. But here's my response to your comment about diabetes, which millions of people have because of what they eat and how they eat. And I write about this in Whole Person Integrative Eating, which I describe, let me clarify this, please. I describe the Whole Person Integrative Eating as ancient food wisdom meets modern nutritional science. I nail everything and every concept that I give you with a scientific study, a quality scientific study. And here's an example. Erica Oberg is a naturopathic doctor, and she has an MPH, and she's a research scientist in California. And she took the Whole Person Integrative Eating model and program, and she applied it to type 2 diabetic patients. And what she found is that, if anybody is taught to eat by number, it's diabetic patients. And you become obsessed with that, with your sugar numbers, you know the drill. And what Erica found, and this is published in a peer-reviewed medical journal, what Erica found is, of the 7 elements of whole person integrative eating, 6 of them are about eating behaviors: what you eat, how you eat, where you eat, with whom, atmosphere. These 6 elements of whole person integrative eating and behavior change lowered blood sugar levels more than what people, the diabetic patients, ate. The behaviors, eating behaviors, which affect the way in which food is metabolized, lowered blood sugar levels, 1 whole standard deviation, forgive me, listeners, than what people were eating, the diabetic patients were eating. How you eat has a profound influence on the way in which food is metabolized. And when I talk about whole person integrative eating, I describe it as a way of eating that leads naturally to weight loss, which is what happened with Erica's diabetic patients. As a side effect, they stopped being obsessed about food and started to enjoy it. And I nail everything I'm saying to you with a study here, study there, study everywhere, that how you eat, not just what you eat, affects the way in which food is metabolized, which includes your blood sugar levels, which includes hormones, which includes your healthy gut. It includes everything. And I'm suggesting that eating food in a pleasurable, positive state of mind and environment is the answer. End of story.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So
Yes.
that really brings me to an important urgent question, and something that I fight with my family doctor over is, can diabetes be reversed? Type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to give you a bigger story now. Are you familiar with a physician named Dean Ornish?
No.
Dean Ornish, Larry Sherwitz, my husband, co-author, behavioral scientist, was Dr. Dean Ornish's director of research for almost 20 years. They still collaborate on research. And what Dr. Ornish did is he took what he calls and writes about the yogic lifestyle and applied it to men with heart disease. And this included, because people with heart disease do not, for various reasons, metabolize fat and cholesterol well in the diet. He took a no-fat added plant-based diet, stress management, which in Dr. Ornish's program includes yoga and meditation, exercise, some kind of physical activity, and also social support and connection. And what Larry Sherwitz and Dean Ornish showed is you can actually halt and reverse heart disease with these lifestyle changes alone without drugs or surgery. This has been published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This has been published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and this has been published in the Lancet, plus other journals, top journals in the world. And I'm bringing this up because I was the nutritionist on Dr. Ornish's first clinical trial for reversing heart disease, the results of which were published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And we didn't know what to expect. And after about 10 days, people started decreasing their insulin medications if they were diabetic. After about 10 days, the angina, heart pain, constriction started decreasing and going away. People started decreasing their blood pressure medications. And over time, certain people in the program not only reversed the calcification and plaque in their arteries through these lifestyle changes alone, their diabetes stopped. And when I say that, the goal of optimal eating and whole person integrative eating, this holistic approach that nourishes multidimensionally, it helps to not only with weight loss, but with health and healing. And when I say health and healing, I am talking about balancing mind and body and ultimately your physiology. Balancing, so your blood sugar levels balance and cholesterol levels balance and your emotions balance. Food has a huge impact on your emotions.
Mhm.
So I am saying to you what I just told you about Dr. Ornish's lifestyle program, heart disease reversal program. This is now called lifestyle medicine. It is a medical specialty. It is covered by Medicare. So lifestyle medicine, just like cardiology, just like endocrinology, just like oncology, is a medical specialty now that medical doctors are being trained in. And some of them are at Harvard. This is offered through Harvard. So this is very real. And so when you ask me about diabetes, the goal with optimal eating and optimal lifestyle is to balance mind and body and soul.
And
Yeah.
that's what I love. That is promising, encouraging, and it's just wonderful. This is what I love about your point of view, as opposed to traditional medical point of view. It's like, okay, you have a problem with your blood pressure, here's some medication. Deal with that. That will deal with the blood pressure. But then all the other things are still going on, and they're taking things like scientists would do. Yes, you look at one thing, but don't lose sight of the overall big picture of the whole being. And this is one of my problems with the medical profession in general. It's they treat you basically, or your disease and yourself, as an object, as something that they're trying to fix, without really looking at the other dimensions. And I love the idea multi-dimension, because what's causing your obesity? What's causing your diabetes, as you'd say? What is the real cause behind it? And for me, it was very enlightening to find out the real reasons. And my approach was through psychoanalysis. I started investigating, finding out like the depth of, like, what is this? What does food stand for me? Why am I so afraid of these things? And once you face it and all these fears kind of evaporate, it's just so liberating. And I do not feel this attraction to junk food anymore that I used to have. I mean, I noticed one place, it was like in the food court, and it's like, okay, all this food, all these smells, they don't affect me. They're not like attracting me. I still enjoy them once in a while, but it's not like I have to have this. And this was very traumatizing, where I felt like I need to have food now. I'm going out of my mind. I need to have food right now. And that's gone. I am, again, with these methods, in control. I feel in control. And when I was at the diabetes classes, I mentioned, for me, this has helped. And there are other things that we can look at, but it was completely ignored by them. But what was encouraging, though, when they said, you can eat anything you want. Yeah, and there was no restriction. And that was, for me, a very good approach. They said, just don't drink juice, right? Fruit juice and so on is generally not a good idea. But everything else, if you like your bacon, have it. Just be mindful about it. The portions, how much you have, don't overdo it. And just like that, again, that control, that aspect of control, nothing is taboo. And if it's taboo, and from psychoanalysis, I know you were going to constantly think about it. It's like, oh, okay, when do I have my bacon? But by doing it in this way, it helps. With intermittent fasting too, I mean, there are different ways of it. You have your fast, but then you say, okay, this is my free day. I can have whatever I want. And I think that balance as well, occasionally overindulging in things, is helpful. The 3 C's, the dangerous C's, the addictive C's: chips, chocolate, and a cake. Those are things that attract us, and just to shun them completely is not going to help you. It's okay. Let's celebrate. Let's have our chocolate cake today. And it's not every day, right? So I think that is not acknowledged by many people. Instead, they're very strict and say, okay, this is my diet. I want to lose this much weight in this time. And I don't think that's helpful. As you say, it's something like I found it was actually a side effect that I kept losing weight, and I would lose about 2 kilos in a month. And it was basically automatic. I didn't even have to put much effort into it, because it felt natural, my natural state of things.
You brought up something that I write about, in the What to Eat Guideline. The What to Eat Guideline in Whole Person Integrative Eating is to eat fresh, whole food in its natural state as often as possible. And also to eat inversely, meaning most Americans eat lots of dairy, fish, meat, poultry, and their main veggies are French fries and ketchup. So inverse eating is mostly plant-based foods with animal-based foods as a kind of a condiment, lesser amount. But I'm bringing this up because of something you just mentioned. The idea is to eat most of the time fresh whole food in its natural state as often as possible, because what I know is the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, and fiber in plant-based foods of fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans and peas, nuts and seeds is what is going to heal you and make weight loss a side effect. It's what's going to heal you, the nutrients in plant-based foods, including the fiber. And what I write about is what you just mentioned, and that is, in psychology, there's a concept called relaxed restraint. So if your most of the time way of eating is fresh whole foods in their natural state, not filled with chemical, I call it chemical cuisine, and all these additives, and we won't go there right now. But if you eat fresh whole food as often as possible, and then it's time to have your favorite whatever, enjoy it. And that's really what the relaxed restraint. Let me give you one other concept. During the time of Hippocrates, who is often called the father of medicine, he lived about 2,500 years ago. He was Greek. And during that time, the word diet meant way of life. Lifestyle medicine meant way of life. And over the centuries, it traveled through Europe and certainly to the States eventually. And it came to mean, over thousands of years, not a way of life, but a regimented, restricted way of eating, which is what it means to you and everybody listening. So I'm suggesting, and it's in the subtitle of Whole Person Integrative Eating, I call Whole Person Integrative Eating a dietary lifestyle meant to be practiced throughout your life, just as you might practice yoga and you get better and better at it, or you might practice meditation and get better and better at it. This is not a diet, it's a way of eating that our research has shown, published into peer-reviewed medical journals, that leads naturally to weight loss, health, and healing. And when I say health and healing, I'm talking balance. When you tell me about the medical profession's general perspective with diabetes and certainly heart disease and most problems health problems that are diet related and also stress related, I'm not going to minimize stress. Most people, not everybody, most medical practitioners have been taught to manage health problems and slow the progression somewhat. It's simply what the training is. And what I'm suggesting, because I know this is a fact, we now know enough about nutritional science to take food to eat to prevent a health problem. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm declining. Sorry. We now know enough about nutrition to eat to prevent a health problem. And with the Ornish dietary lifestyle program I told you about, we now know enough on how to eat and live lifestyle medicine, not just food, although food's way up there, to halt and reverse major chronic food-related conditions, including obesity, including heart disease, including diabetes. A quick antidote: both of my parents died of heart disease. I'm at high risk. I was the nutritionist on Dean Ornish's first clinical trial for reversing heart disease. Larry Sherwitz, co-author, behavioral scientist, was the research scientist on this program for almost 20 years. I know you can eat to halt and reverse health problems, major chronic conditions now. And the traditional medical practitioner is trained to help slow down the progression of major chronic conditions. But I know with lifestyle medicine, and especially with diet and stress management, way up there, you can actually halt and reverse. In my case, in terms of whole person integrative eating, overweight and obesity, and the link with overeating, but you can also reverse and halt most major chronic conditions today.
Yeah, and I think prevention is undervalued. It's not followed up upon. And with, like as you say, the doctors are here to manage and treat the disease, but it's not their job necessarily to prevent it.
Right.
And what I love about your approach to it says it's personalized. So there's a personalized plan because each person is going to respond to various things differently. And one thing we forget about medication is you're given the same medication, but your body, even internally, is different as well as outside. So
Yes.
It will respond in different ways. And just thinking that there's one solution, one pill for everyone is misguided and is wrong. And that approach, and again, a holistic approach where you see the whole facets of the other person will be much more beneficial than just treating, again, one thing with one set of ways of doing things. For me personally, it is really stress was the main culprit and anxiety. And it can actually kind of backfire because there is a disease called, or obsession called orthorexia nervosa. And I
Yes.
was surprised to find that out, but you can also be health obsessed. So those are people who are exercise, they over-exercise, they try to take care of their health too stringently, like especially if they're very strict vegans and say, okay, none of this, I will not touch that. And I think that is actually in many ways also harmful. And it doesn't get the media attention or coverage because you say, okay, I am exercising, I'm a vegan, everything is fine. But what about this obsession with health that can happen?
A good
Do you have any
question.
thoughts
Thank
on
you
that?
for asking that. I write about orthorexia.
We do. Okay, good.
Yes, because let me clarify, give you context for this. I have identified, we have, Dr. Larry Sherwitz and I have identified 7 statistically significant, very real overeating styles, new normal overeating styles. One of them that are linked with overeating, becoming overweight and obese. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about all 7 with the science behind it, but let me address orthorexia, which I write about. One of the overeating styles is called food fretting, which is an over concern about what and how to eat. And it also includes dieting. As I speak with you right now, almost 50% of Americans are on some kind of rigid, regimented, restricted kind of diet to lose weight, mostly for weight loss. But food fretting overeating style is dieting. And the key concept in psychology is obsessing and over concern about what to eat and how to eat. Was I good today? Was I bad today? All normal behavior. When you mention orthorexia, we have been taught by many health professionals, may I say, trying to help people to obsess about food and what we're eating and calorie counting. And I call it, I told you, eating by number. So food fretting is one of the overeating styles, obsessing about, and look at what it does to your quality of life. And look at what it does to your whole way of being in the world. Something I often say when I do coaching is, we've been taught, especially in many large cities, women have been taught to be a size, I'm going like this with my finger, to be super skinny and a size 2. I have talked with men who told me that their wives and daughters and most women they know have some kind of obsession and disordered eating around food. It's normal in our culture, the food fretting overeating style. And something I would say, just as a consideration for somebody I'm coaching, is, when you're gone, is your daughter going to stand and talk about you and say, the thing I'm most proud about my mother is that she remained a size 2 her entire life?
Mhm.
But we've been taught this, to look at your yoga teacher and see if she has real good abs, and can you get there also? All this obsession we've been taught to be normal, in terms of our body image. It's all normal, everything I'm saying to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that is something that's it's often overlooked, I think, in society. Again, there is no criticism of that, not enough also information about it. And when I stumbled upon that, and I know quite a few people who are obsessed with their food, and they claim, and they're trying. One of the things of that is, once you follow this kind of lifestyle of, like, let's say, vegan lifestyle, there is also the idea, and that might be subconscious, of like, I am purifying myself, and therefore a religious connotation there. Therefore, I can tell you what to do, the holier than thou kind of attitude. And I'm going to tell you that this is good for you. But in fact, in many cases, they haven't dealt with another aspect of themselves, which is their anxiety, their stress, and so on, that's driving them. And then so I would have righteous vegan friends who would always tell me, okay, you're wrong, you should be doing this and this, but it's not coming from a balanced perspective. And that is my concern too, of like, okay, if I criticize anything, I get attacked, because that is part of something they're not looking at, and they're ignoring in themselves. So it's important, but I think, like, for me, I love vegetables. I think it's great to have fruits. It's great to have a very balanced diet. But like you said, the occasional meat does not do harm here and there. And in terms of evolution, this is something we've been eating for such a long time. And it's not something that you can change overnight, and it's not healthy. I was a vegetarian for a couple of years, and I read the book Lila by Robert M. Pirsig, and there was like an argument he made that convinced me, because it's saying, like, okay, if you have a bacteria that is affecting a person, and you make a choice, like, it's a living thing, the bacteria, but you also have the person. As a doctor, you want the person to survive and kill the bacteria. You're killing life. And so why is it that when we have food options, do we kill the animal instead of what is the kind of lower thing, by eating plants and vegetables and so on, so we can avoid the suffering and killing of animals? That convinced me. But then from a health perspective, it did not do me a lot of good, because I was constantly hungry as I was
Mhm.
a vegetarian. And it wasn't, and I enjoy meat. I mean, it's like depriving something of myself that I enjoy. I feel bad for the animals, but this is something we've also had, evolutionarily speaking. That's like, we've evolved from it, and I don't think we can just cut it off, and I don't think it's healthy to do that. But yes, we have to reduce it, absolutely. And again, don't overindulge in things, but I don't think we get that perspective. It's always this very kind of different compartments. This is what I do. This is my diet. This is my definition. This is my religion. I don't see it like that. I see things more fluid. And that leads me to another question I have, is when you mention spirituality, what do you mean by that? What does that personally mean for you? And if you're comfortable sharing maybe information about that.
I write about it. I'm real
Okay,
comfortable.
good.
What started this odyssey, again, this is ancient food wisdom. Larry, co-author, was presenting in New Delhi, India, at the first international conference on lifestyle and health. And I used to write for magazines, and I went to New Delhi with Larry. And one of the presenters was Dr. K.L. Chopra, clinical cardiologist, father and mentor of Deepak Chopra. who is a transformation guru and just brilliant physician, endocrinologist, and what a spiritual leader, I think, thought leader in the world. And I was going to write an article on yoga and diet. So I asked an open-ended question of Dr. K.L. Chopra, his Dr. Deepak's father, and this is his response. He said, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the oldest religion in the world, Hinduism, it is the scripture for Hinduism. He said, the Bhagavad Gita espouses cooking with love because we believe your prana, your consciousness, is infused into the food. And when you eat, you ingest the consciousness with which the food was prepared. And the thought would not let go. And that's what started me on my, I call it, nutrition journey around the world, to research what and how we ate for thousands of years, because I thought, here's a clinical cardiologist talking about cooking with love, which is in the culture. We made with love. It's still in the culture. And he's talking about a 4,000-year-old religion, Hinduism. And I thought, well, if Hinduism espouses this, surely other world religions and cultural traditions have figured this out also. And that's what started me on my research about ancient food wisdom. So to answer your question, what Larry and I distilled into the 7 principles include 3 spiritual nutrition perennial principles that have been in major world religions and in cultures for thousands of years. And the 3 spiritual nutrition elements are: 1, to eat with mindfulness, comes from especially Buddhism, to bring moment to moment, non-judgmental. We've learned to be very judgmental about ourselves and others. Non-judgmental awareness to every aspect of the meal. The second one is gratitude and appreciation from the heart for food. We used to bless food before we ate it. Many people still do. And the third spiritual nutrition ingredient within the context of whole person integrative eating is loving regard. Remember, Dr. Chopra said the Bhagavad Gita tells us to eat with love because our consciousness is infused into the food and we ingest that. Let me give you an example with ancient food wisdom, modern nutritional science. So the mindfulness, gratitude from the heart, and loving regard are the 3 spiritual nutrition ingredients, which lessens overeating when you eat with that consciousness. Here's an example. Most world religions talk about are based on love and loving regard when you eat and loving regard for food. In Islam, a Sufi, which is the spiritual arm of Islam, a professor at Berkeley, he told me that to eat processed food is to eat food that has been defiled and not respect Allah. So I'm bringing that up because here's the modern nutritional science. About 20 plus years ago, a researcher named Robert Nerum, who was a professor, I think it was the University of Houston in Texas, he took rabbits and fed them a very high cholesterol diet to see if they get heart disease and clogged arteries. And the rabbits who were fed this really high cholesterol diet were in 3 tiers of cages. And what he found when he looked at the arteries of these rabbits is that 1/3 of the rabbits did not get any clogged arteries or heart disease, or very, very little. And the rabbits in the other 2 cages developed severe atherosclerosis, clogging of the arteries. Couldn't understand it. And he retraced every step. And what he found is the diminutive research assistant would take the rabbits in the middle cages out when she fed them. And those were the rabbits who didn't get heart disease. And he couldn't believe it. And he replicated the study and they got the same results. Your consciousness and eating with loving regard and being held and cared for when you eat, instead of stress eating and jamming the donut down because you're angry and you're depressed and you're upset and yes, and you're anxious, affects the way in which food is metabolized. So I give you all of these elements of whole person integrative eating with modern nutritional science verifying every element.
I think the point of cooking with love, we know my wife here does
You're smiling. Why are you
yeah.
smiling? Tell me.
Well, no, because I'm also cooking with love because she, when she's cooking, and there is sometimes like an argument with my son or me, and then the food doesn't turn out good. And she's always saying like, don't have an argument with me while I'm cooking because
He
it's
knows.
reflected in the food. And I absolutely agree with that. And when I do try a dish and I might not be as good as I am not as good as her, but I put like all my thought and love into it, and it turns out to be fine, you know. And even though I'm like medium in terms of cooking, so that is, I think, a very important aspect of creating the food with tranquility, with love, and also consuming it in the same way and not mindlessly, like in front of the TV, or just really appreciating what we have. And that's in religions, as well as fasting has been in religions too, as a form of cleansing your body. So we can see that all these different aspects exist in the world, and we just have to kind of put them together. And this is what you're doing beautifully. And I will have to add your book to my my book that I'm working on for health, my own experience. I would love to include it in my research. Apart from, again, the intermittent fasting, apart from psychoanalysis, I think it is really what I strongly resonate with and believe in. And thank you so much for taking your time to talking with me here. It's been a pleasure. It's been comforting, and comfort food, by the way. So we started trying to do our own macaroni and cheese, homemade, and it is so much better. And it is so easy to make. And we thought, we're not going back to those boxes again because it is so much better in so many ways. And that is, I think, that's important to know, that we don't need junk food. We don't need it. We don't need the ice cream to deal with our pain, our disappointments, our suffering. There are different, much better ways of finding that balance. And for me, the Tao is really important. More like Buddhism is something I've studied very, very passionately since I was a teenager. And to me, that is really helpful of how to see the world, and the good and the bad, and yin and the yang, all that stuff. I think we need that. And because right now we know the world is out of whack, but this is our chance here to really kind of recalibrate everything. And I am generally an optimist. I know with all the stuff that's happening in the world, especially with COVID-19, I think this is a great opportunity for us to find a new way, a new direction. For me, the greatest discovery here has been technology, and being able to do a Zoom interview with people and being in places all around the world. I mean, that's just, I've been taking classes, and where usually you would have to travel there, get your visa and so on. Now you can do it through the magic of technology. And so when people are maligning technology, no, it's just how you use it. It's how you eat, how you do everything, how you live your life. And once you find that balance, I think it's going to be so rewarding for everybody. And in terms of health and healing, that is something I'm striving for, and I'm trying to heal myself. Once I'm there, I would love to share my knowledge with other people to help them as well. But you are already doing that. So thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Very much appreciated.
Bye for now.
Okay, take care. Bye.